The Dwarfs love a bit of fire, and they have some of the strongest fiery options in Total War Warhammer. With this tactic, we're going to make use of their fiery prowess, melting pretty much any single entity in about 30 seconds or less. Overall though, Dwarf fire-focused armies are extremely fun. They've got a lot of units with fire damage, such as miners with blasting charges. The blasting charge itself does cause fire damage. The warriors of Dragonfire Pass have fire on their melee attacks. The good old Dragonback Slayers don't actually have fire attacks themselves, but they cause a weakness to fire with their flammable ability. Then of course there's the classic Iron Drakes, the most flamiest of flamey flame units. Then there's the artillery piece, the flame cannons, which fire fireballs, and the brimstone gun gyrocopters, which fire rockets, I guess. But one of the main stars of this show is actually going to be Thorek Ironbrow, or maybe the Rune Lord or the Runesmith. Any of them will do, because they all share the same things that we need. They have the Rune of Breaking, which they can take, which imbues armor sundering to a unit that they cast it on. So you can give a friendly unit armor sundering so they can reduce an enemy target's armor by 30. And then he also has Forge Fire, reducing any nearby enemy unit's armor by 15. So making use of those two things together, we can get a minus 45 armor debuff on any enemy unit. As I say, any runecaster can fill this role and bring these two things. And then we're also going to need a Thane with his item, specifically Ironbeard's Ring, because that gives a plus 20% weakness to fire. Who else gives a plus 20% weakness to fire? That's right, the Dragonback boys, and that does stack. The weakness to fire that they provide from Flammable will stack with the Thane's Ring weakness to fire. So that means that any enemy unit that is affected by those two things will take plus 40% extra damage from fiery damage sources. Couple that up with the minus 45 armor of the Rune Lords, and well, you get where this is going. You'll want to put the Slayers, the Runecaster, and the Thane all together to attack the same target up close in melee. You want to then use the Runecaster to drop that Rune of Breaking on the Slayers preferably, as they have a better chance of simply landing one hit to inflict that armor sundering. And then, as you'll see here with old Skarbrand, we've got him debuffed to High Heaven. And this is all making way for the incoming flaming attack. So you can see we've got him Ironbeard's Ring plus 20% extra fire damage, armor sundered, that's 30 armor off him, flammable, that's another 20% fire damage, and the Forge Fire coming from Thorek in this case, that's another 15 armor off, so he's down to 45 armor plus 40 extra damage from the fire. And these Iron Drakes, just a single unit of Iron Drakes here, going to do a whole ton of damage to Skarbrand, and they're going to have him melted away in about 30 to 40 seconds with 2 or 3 volleys, plus all the damage that the Slayers will be doing to him, and also the Lord and Hero. All in all, you can do a lot of damage very quickly, and this is just with one unit of Iron Drakes as the main source of fire. The other benefit of being able to do damage to a single target very quickly is that they will take some serious leadership penalties from having so much damage done to them in a short space of time. Thus, you can lead a unit into routing or banishing in Skarbrand's case very quickly. But as I mentioned, that was just with a lone unit of Iron Drakes. Let's throw in some other stuff now. Same idea, we've still got a unit of Iron Drakes, but now we're going to throw in a Flame Cannon, because why not? Just the one though, we'll try to be realistic. You're not going to bring 5 units of flame cannons, although maybe you would. But we'll also bring 1 unit of gyrocopter brimstone guns as well, thus giving us 3 sources of fiery damage, each boosted up by 40%. And as you can imagine, poor old Skarbrand isn't going to do too well in this situation, and he is going to be utterly melted very quickly. Skarbrand kebab, anyone? How about somebody with a bit more meat on them then? A bit more health even. 14,000 health for Kugath. How long can that last against the onslaught of fiery melting powers from the Dwarfs? A flame cannon, some Iron Drakes, and a brimstone gun, same as last time. 1 volley and Kugath is nearly down to half health. Of course, the attacks of the other units, the melee units, are helping this come down as well. There are some Nurglings he spawned up, but that isn't going to save him. The fire's still going on, and it doesn't take Kugath long to start heading back to the Chaos Realm from whence he came. So no large single entity is safe from the Dwarf Melter tactic. Well, this is all well and good to show in controlled situations, right? But can it work in actual battles in real scenarios? Well, here's some examples. First here against the vampires, moving up with the Dwarfs. This is a pretty standard Dwarf army, but we've got that fiery core. A Rune Lord, a Thane, the Slayers, some Iron Drakes, a Flame Cannon back here, and that is it. Not even any Brimstone guns in this one. The Vampire Lord in this case is AI controlled, so is very wisely just charging his Lord in by himself, as the AI likes to do, right into the hands of my melting party no less. So we're going to jump on him straight away, He gets my Iron Drakes a little bit, so we're going to pull them back. He's got a little bit of time where he's safe, but he's still taking a fair bit of damage from the Flame Cannon. He's trying to get away, but we're going to stay on him. Line up the Iron Drakes, and old Manfred von Carstein is going to be dead and melted before he knows it. Watch that health melt away very quickly. If there's any unit that also has a weakness to fire, not that Manfred does, but any unit that also has a weakness to fire, that could give you a 60% plus fire damage on them, so there's always that to watch out for as well. But Manfred here executed very quickly. And that's even without the help of the other units. I could have turned my Thunderers around and added them into the equation of taking out Manfred, but they weren't even needed. What about if the old Lizard Men come a knocking and they bring, oh scheisse, the Shredder of Lustria? Well, we're going to move to where that Shredder is first of all, prepare our attack. We're not going to charge in by ourselves, but we're going to wait for that Shredder to come to us. Currently, he's running away from the Flame Cannon, but when he does come over, we're going to jump on him. And even though he does have more health than the big old Kugath, we're going to be ready, and it's going to be no problem for our anti-large melting party. You can see him being hit by the Iron Drakes there, but it's not going to do a great deal until we've got his armor down and that bonus to the fire damage. The reduction of the armor is especially important because fire weapons generally don't do a lot of armor piercing damage, so it's very important to get the armor down as much as you can to help the flames do the most damage. So against super heavily armored targets, maybe this won't quite work so well, but as you saw against Manfred, who didn't really have much armor anyway, we took him down to 25 armor, so he got absolutely melted. But even the Shredder of Lustria here, we knocked him down to 55 armor, he's taken too much damage too quickly, we've broken his leadership, and he is off. And one more example then, this time with the High Elves, where there be dragons. It's important to note with this tactic as well that your target needs to be something that kind of towers above infantry. If it's a small monster that isn't that tall, then there's a chance that the Slayers will obstruct the ranged units and they'll simply refuse to fire. Something like a mutant Rat Ogre, for example, might be too short. In this case, a dragon target has landed and our boys are going to get moving to get after it. As you approach, don't forget to cast that Rune of Breaking. You can even overcast that spell to make it last longer so the Slayers can keep that armor lower for longer, although they might not need it, so it could be a waste. And both the Forge Fire ability from the Runecaster and the Ironbeard's Ring from the Thane are both area abilities, so you don't actually need to fight or get in close to hit the enemy, you just need to be near them so that the aura gets them. And you can see in the case of this dragon, it's still got half its health, but it's had enough already. We put so many leadership penalties on it, it's going home. I do have Brimstone Gyrocopters in this case though, so I could chase that off and make sure it dies so it doesn't come back. And they could be very powerful in this situation. They've got the mobility, you could bring 2 or 3 units of those, they could be very dangerous. But look at this, Alariel has very kindly offered herself up to be melted. She dives into the melting party, gets all the debuff, she's got 0 armor, and guess what? She doesn't last long. Well played, Alaria. So there it is, the Dwarf Monster Melter. If it's a single entity and you've got the units available, this tactic can be absolutely devastating to single entities. It could potentially work against cavalry or monstrous infantry if you can get the right angle or you have the right missile units or ranged units for the job. And I guess the same thing with infantry if you can get the right angles. But there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the future.